Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Full Court Trap uSTADIUM's NBA podcast. I'm your host, Splash, and we are joined with a special guest today joining the uSTADIUM Live Network for his first ever show. My good friend, Jake. How's it going, pal?
Doing great, man. Really excited we finally got the opportunity to do this. Excited for this show to get underway. How are you doing?
I am on cloud nine right now. I've just been vibing to this background music for a few minutes now. I'm in a great mood, ready to talk some ball, and what a time to be alive, everyone. What a time.
Yeah, a lot going on in sports right now, so I think we picked the perfect time to start this off.
100%. So let's get it started. We have some NBA trade deadline talk today. We were going to talk about the Lakers, and it was going to be terrifying, but the Lakers are winning right now. Jake has the game on backstage, and they're chilling. Lakers are chilling.
Yeah, still a lot of moves that need to be made for that team, definitely. I'm surprised that Vogel's still the coach, but right now they're looking pretty good in this game, so his job will probably survive another night.
So I think my camera is off right now, so I'm going to see if I can add it back.
All right, looks like he's
good to go.
Fixing his camera situation.
Hopefully.
Flash it there.
Okay, well, I can talk. Let me turn on my audio avatar, because that's just goofy. Okay, let me stop my cam, because that sucks.
Technical difficulties right now.
Yeah, technical difficulties. So I'm going to connect to see if my Wi-Fi improves.
Yeah, it's all good. But yeah, a little bit of technical difficulties going on right now. Be back in a second.
We good to go?
All right. So you want to get started with some trade talk?
Am I live?
Yep. You're here.
All right. There we go. Is my camera back on?
No, not that good, but
oh my goodness,
we can hear you. So.
Okay, I will switch to the audio avatar. That is a bummer, but that is my laptop is folding under pressure. That's the whole point of a full court trap, force pressure, and of course we're losing today. So, oh well. So we do have a question from Mr. Dan Hackett. With all the drama the last few off seasons, do you think the 76ers will finally move on from Ben Simmons, and where do you think he'll end up?
I do think they'll move on from him. So many teams have offered them really good trades that honestly I don't know where he's going to end up. I mean, there's a lot of places I could see him going. Like probably half the teams in basketball could end up trading for him. I mean, the Kings put in a really good offer with Halliburton, I think it was Fox, Barnes, and 2 first-round picks for Harris, what's his name again? Tyrese Maxie. And
Maxie.
And Ben Simmons. And the 76ers declined it. I think Halliburton in a couple of years will be the best player in that trade. I'm really high on Halliburton, and I was surprised the 76ers didn't take that trade. So
yeah, I've
really
been a big fan of Halliburton. I think he definitely brought some of that Malcolm Brogdon effect, really, when he came in with the Kings. That, I mean, is he going to be a superstar? I don't think so, but he is going to be a solid NBA player for a very long time, and it's very almost like what Evan Turner was for a long time, or what Brogdon is. That you're not getting a superstar, but you're getting a guy that some years might be all-star caliber, depending on like the strength of the league that season. So I think Halliburton's a great player. We know Simmons is a great player, but he also seemingly peaked his rookie season, and he is a bit of a liability when it matters in the clutch, when you don't want to shoot and you can't shoot free throws, and you don't want to shoot free throws and you can't hit jumpers.
Well, the thing with Simmons is, like, I feel like there's certain teams where he would fit perfectly. But I think, for example, I wouldn't want him on the Cavs personally, but if the Cavs ended up trading for him, that would be like one of the greatest defenses ever. If you had Garland, Okoro, Simmons, Mobley, and Allen. Unfortunately, there's no spacing there, so that's why I don't want it to happen. But it was interesting that a team like that was interested in him because of the defensive implications there. There was one team that I'm blanking on right now that I was really high on Simmons going to, but yeah, for the most part, I mean, you know what you're getting. You're getting a great passer, great defender, who just can't shoot the basketball. He gets the hoop well, he can facilitate really well. You just don't want him shooting jumpers, or he won't shoot jumpers. He's made that pretty clear at this point. So
absolutely. So I'm gonna try again with my camera. Maybe it's just the I don't know, man.
Oh, there you are. We got you.
Okay. Awesome. Now, the one time I have like my $100 camera that I got just to do live streams, and like it sucks. It's like, what the heck is going on? But anyways, you can see my beautiful face.
Yeah.
I like the fit with Simmons across teams in the league. It's just, do you want to deal with that? Do you want to deal with a player that is probably unclutch? Like we talk about the clutch gene. Simmons has like the opposite of the clutch gene, and he like almost folds under pressure. Like if you have a normal player that'll be like, okay, I can hit some shots in the clutch, but it's like, who cares? Then you have like the LeBrons of the world that both of us as Cavs fans have seen hit a plethora of clutch shots, especially in the 2018 playoffs. But then Simmons is like the antithesis of being clutch. He is almost afraid of the moment and cowers in the moment. And do you want that on your team? Can you win a championship with him as your best player, second best player? I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, I mean, again, you can't have him as someone that is needs to take shots down the stretch. But if you want him, if he's defensively, which is just as important as offense, as we saw in games like 2016 Game 7 when one shot there, it changes everything. He's as important as anybody on the defensive end. I think a team that would be really interesting. I don't know how it worked money wise. I mean, they'd probably have to get rid of a lot of guys, which would hurt them. But the Celtics would be interesting with Simmons, especially if they ended up moving on from Tatum or Brown, because they do have that guy who can shoot in clutch situations, and Simmons would give them a ton of help defensively. They still need some help at power forward, the Celtics, but I think that would be really interesting, Simmons to Boston.
Are you sure they don't need Isaiah Thomas?
I mean, prime Isaiah Thomas? Sure. 2022 Isaiah Thomas?
Yeah. So, of course, both of us being Cavs fans, we have a bit of an inside joke with Isaiah Thomas, and we think I think we had a conversation the last time we talked that Pistons Isaiah Thomas might be better nowadays than like Kings, Lakers, Cavs, Celtics Isaiah Thomas. So who knows? Answer in the comment in the chat if you think like Zeke Isaiah Thomas would be better right now, or King of the fourth quarter Isaiah Thomas would be better right now. So
I mean, I definitely don't want Cavs Isaiah Thomas on the floor.
Oh no, that was bad. That was bad. Speaking of bad, let's talk about the New York Knicks. They were coming in on a high. Last year they had a very successful season. They were a top 5 seed in the East, and then got clowned by Trae Young, Ice Trae, and lost in 5. And now you're like, okay, big expectations this year. All-star Julius Randle was dropping 24 a night last year. You bring in Kemba Walker. Like, it's time. Like, it's time for the Knicks to be really good. It's time for them to be a top 4 seed in the East, maybe like threaten Milwaukee and Brooklyn and threaten these teams. And they've stunk this year. They're under 500. They are on the fringes of playoff consideration. And it's, you can never, like, they have these nice weeks and Kemba drops 40 and they lose by 20. It's like, what's going on at MSG?
I think the Knicks' biggest issue, which, by the way, the team that they lost to also had high expectations coming into this year. It's stunk even more than the Knicks. But I think the Knicks' biggest issue is inconsistency. You'll have weeks where Julius Randle looks like an all-star. That whole team is playing great. Kemba's playing great. RJ Barrett's playing great. Mitchell Robinson's looking like one of the best defensive centers in basketball. And then you'll have weeks where everything looks terrible. They look like they can't defend. They definitely look like they can't score, So they're a team I wouldn't be surprised they make a trade in the trade deadline. I think somebody like Eric Gordon might be interesting for them. Somebody who's been an incredible scorer this year. I mean, shooting, I think, 50% from the field, 46% from three. So that'd be really interesting if they ended up getting him.
Yeah, and really with the Knicks, they just can't score the basketball. They are 27th in scoring heading into tonight, but they're 6th on defense. So they get into these low scoring games, which it's funny now that 104 points is bad offense. I remember growing up, it was like, if you scored 100 points in a game,
104, you probably won.
Yeah, like the 04 Pistons era, if you scored 100 points in a game, you probably won the game twice. But just the Knicks cannot consistently score the basketball, and it's so much of a drag to watch. And it's like a lot of isolation and a lot of bad shots and a lot of like, what on earth are you doing here? And like, it doesn't matter how good your defense is if you can't consistently score 100 points or can't score 110 points on a given night. And it's just, when your number one option is Julius Randle or not Cardiac Kemba, what are we doing here? I think Randle can be an awesome number 2, but
also guys Quickly is one of my favorite young players in basketball. I love watching him play. The dude's inconsistent. Same with guys like Alec Burks, Kemba. Definition of inconsistency at this point. So I think they just need guys who can consistently put the ball in the hoop. They just don't have that. Julius Randle's looked like a shell of himself for most of this year, but he's had some really good games. It's clear that that's still there. It's just not always there. And when it's not, he looks like a disaster.
Absolutely. We have Derrick Rose, who's an all-star voting. I believe he's above Darius Garland, which sucks.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, he has huge fans, which is understandable. But that's the reason why I just don't like the fan voting for the All-Star in general, because it just people are going to vote for who they want to vote for. It's not going to be based on, performance. Klay Thompson and Kyrie Irving have a ton of votes too, and they've played probably combined 10 games this year. So.
Yep. Yes, they have. So just a stat check on Randle, 19 points per game this year, 41% from the field. Yeah. That's rough. And we're talking like 46% on twos. That is rough. Like, especially I can get behind yeah, exactly. And if you I can understand. Shoot.
What's his 3-point percentage this year? I think it was around 35, if I remember correctly. 33.
It's 31% right now.
Sheesh. That's terrible.
Just disaster. He does give you 5 assists a game. He does give you 10 rebounds a game. He gives you 1.5 stocks per game, steals plus blocks. That's a Bill Simmons term. But you look and it's like, is that your best player? And then you look at RJ Barrett, and he's pouring in about 17 a game, 5.5 rebounds, couple assists, stealing a block or so. And he's shooting 42%, 35% from 3, which I get it.
That's
with
good.
modern NBA shooters, right? You'll have high volume, and if you have a high volume of threes, that's going to drag down your field goal percentage. Look at James Harden, who has a higher, last time I checked, had a higher 2-point percentage than Michael Jordan and a higher 3-point percentage than Michael Jordan. But if you just look at his field goal percentage, it's way lower, right? Because that's just how numbers work. Yeah. So, if you're the Knicks general manager, if you are Leon Rose right now, what are you doing with the Knicks? What strings are you pulling so you're not losing to the Pelicans?
I think they need scoring. I think you go out there, you go all out for a Karis LeVert type of player if you're the Knicks. I think he's been inconsistent in Indiana, but I think that's more of a product of Indiana's dysfunctionality than Karis LeVert himself. He's a smooth, I think he's 6'5". He'll give you points. He'll make plays. He'll pass the ball well. He's gonna get his shots up, which could hurt team chemistry. But the Knicks don't really have that at all. So I think also part of the reason why he shoots so much is because he's in a bad situation in Indiana where he has to shoot. Kind of similar to Colin Sexton in Cleveland last year. Even though his percentages were better than LeVert, he was shooting a ton of shots because he had to. And this year he was really coming into his own in those first 11 games as an all-around basketball player until, unfortunately, he went down for the year. But I think you can see the same type of growth as an overall basketball player from Levert. The numbers in terms of points are going to go down when he goes to a team that can actually, some guys can put the ball in the hoop outside of him, unlike in Indiana. Though they do have guys like Brogdon and Sabonis, they've been in and out of the lineup this year with injuries, COVID, and all that stuff. So I think that would be a good pickup. You try for somebody like Buddy Hield, even though I'm not the biggest fan because of his age. He's always a reliable shooter. Eric Gordon, like we talked about before. I think those are all guys that are interesting. The thing that kind of sucks this year is there's no there's no James Harden or even a Kyle Lowry type of player from last year.
Yeah, there's no big fish.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking if there was a type of Kyle Lowry type of player out there this year for the Cavs, before the trade for Rondo, I was thinking, if there was a type of player like that, I want him. But I mean, maybe somebody like Goran Dragic, but he hasn't really played in a while, and he's got a big contract. That's the same thing with somebody like John Wall, who's basically untradeable right now because of his, what is he getting paid, like $40 million now?
Yeah, it's ridiculous with Wall. So just an update on the Knicks in the standings. They are 22-24. They are a game and a half out of the 10 seed in the Eastern Conference. Of course, we do have the play-in this year. Top 6 are locked in, then 7 plays 8, 9 plays 10. If you lose the 7-8, you play the winner of the 9-10, and then the winner of that is the 8 seed. So the Knicks on the outside looking in, they have the rest of the season. They have 36 games to kind of right the ship, and they're only a little bit behind Boston, Toronto. They're a game and a half behind both. 2 games behind Washington, the 8 seed. So it's not out of the question, but they do need a push in the right direction, whether that's a Karis LeVert, whether that's an Eric Gordon, whether that's someone we haven't mentioned yet. Who knows? But the Knicks need to find an answer.
Well, I'm interested to see if somebody like Bradley Beal becomes available because he doesn't want to re-sign with Washington. And I'm forgetting if he's a free agent this coming off season or the next one. I think it's this coming off season, but I could be wrong. But I wouldn't be surprised because Washington's not winning a championship this year. I think they've really overachieved. Probably could get a lot of good assets back for him, and I think build up more of a team because they have a lot of solid players.
Right.
Washington, and I think if somebody like Beal became available, he seems like a very MSG, big lights or big time type of player that would kind of fit there. And I think the thing with Randall too is it might almost be unfair to him to be going off his numbers this year because he's not a number one option. He's a very good basketball player. He's not a number one option, and the Knicks are trying to force him to be a number one option. And I don't know if you can blame that on Randall that he's just not a number one option. He's a good player. He's a really good player, but he's not a number one option.
So Beal, go ahead.
You got somebody like Siakam, who I think is a very similar basketball player to Randall up in Toronto, and they have a lot of guys outside of him who can score the basketball consistently. You know what I mean? Whereas in New York, you have a lot of guys who can score the basketball, but not consistently. It'll be one guy one night. Alec Burks will drop in 30 one night, Evan Fournier another, but then they'll shoot 0 of 8 from 3 the next night. And then, where's that production coming from with those guys who are shooting that poorly? You saw that last night against the Pelicans.
Yeah, absolutely. And with Beal, he has a player option for next season, which if he's staying in Washington, that's a decline. And really, if he goes anywhere, that's a decline. So you get that new money, you get that big deal entering his age 29 season. He's pouring in 23 and a half a game. Percentage is a little lower than you want, only 30% from 3, but 45% from the field is perfectly fine for a 2-guard. 6.5 assists, 5 rebounds. Like, I'm chilling with that. Like, if that's your number one scorer, he's pouring in 23 a game with probably the upside to be a 25, 28, even a 30 point per game scorer. If he's making his threes, like, he's absolutely a guy that I think is super valuable this year, especially as like a mercenary type for these last 30 games. But you don't want to overpay because he might not re-sign with you.
Well, also the thing is too, with a player like him who's very reliant. Since what is he? 20? You said he's 29, about to turn 29.
Yeah, he's entering his age 29 season, or he's 28 right now.
But
28 right now.
He if he signed to a long-term deal, he's a player who relies a lot on his quickness. I know that players' primes are being extended every year. Due to basketball evolving, but you don't want to. The Knicks have made the mistake in the past where they've overpaid for an older basketball player. I mean, we saw it, during the Amari Stoudemire. I mean, Carmelo was good there, but Carmelo Anthony 2 years. I mean, they had a decent, solid core. They traded all those guys. They, paid a couple of guys who, weren't going to win a championship. And if you're not winning a championship, especially in New York, you saw last year Knicks fans were so excited about the team, and then they lose 4-1 to the Hawks, and people don't really look at it as that successful of a season anymore now in terms of Knicks fans. So.
Which is crazy because the Knicks have been like really quite poor most of the last 20 years since they went to the finals in '99. They've been pretty trash most years, and then you have a little bit of success. You're a top 5 seed in the East, and like big things are on the horizon. Oh, we're Knicks fans. That's right. We're also usually Jets fans. Okay, no wonder you're always depressed.
But they they still have a good thing going there. I think they just need to figure out, the offensive side of the ball. Because like you said, the defense is still there. Thibodeau's one of the best defensive coaches ever, probably. That guy is an incredible defensive mind. You just need to get guys who can put the ball in the hoop consistently, and you'll be fine in New York. And I mean, even though they're 22 and 24 right now, if they put the right guys together, that could go from a 22-24 team, maybe not this year, but in a year or two, to a team that could potentially be competing for something. So
yeah, and even if you have like even a 5-game winning streak right now, you launch yourself up into playoff contention, and that's honestly all that matters.
The Eastern Conference is so tight right now. I mean, they're only 6.5 back of the 1 seed, so they're like obviously not gonna hit the 1 seed, but they're like 4 back. Yeah, who knows? But they're like 4 back of the 6 seed, right? As the 11 seed, so it's very tight right now. If they made a push, they could potentially get themselves back in the conversation.
Absolutely. And speaking of getting back in the conversation, Dan Hackett has another question. It's well known that LeBron has input in personnel decisions. With that said, do you see the Lakers making moves at the deadline?
I see them trying to, and I think they will, but I don't know what room they have to make deals, because they have either these guys who are basically untradeable contracts, like you got like the AD's Westbrook's contract's basically untradeable. Obviously LeBron, not.
Let's trade LeBron.
And then you got guys, you got guys like Wayne Ellington, Trevor Ariza, who's the other guy? They have like a few
Avery
of those
Bradley.
aging Avery Bradley, who just nobody's gonna want. You can pick those type of guys off waivers. I think somebody like Taylor Horton-Tucker might be interesting to trade, though. They're probably kicking themselves right now for not trading him for Kyle Lowry in the offseason. So I'm pretty sure that trade was on the table, and they didn't want to give up THT. I think Kyle Lowry would have been a way better fit than Westbrook, and I think people are giving Westbrook so much blame for the Lakers' failures. I don't know if it's really fair, because you have a team that doesn't really have shooters, and the defense is collapsing. And Westbrook's always been a guy that plays off of his shooters. You need to spread out the defense. He can go to work, go into the hoop, pass the ball out. Guy makes a 3. His assist numbers are up, points are up. Everyone's happy.
Right.
When you don't have guys who can consistently shoot the basketball, it lets the defense really collapse on that. And Westbrook's not the best jump shooter as we've seen over the past couple months.
30% on the season.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah. His corner threes are like 50% this year, but everything else in terms of jumpers has been a disaster.
Okay, do you know how many Lakers are shooting above 39% from 3 this season? Among like those with like legitimate attempts?
I guess like 1 or 2.
Yep, 1. Malik Monk is shooting 41%.
He's been awesome. That team would be a disaster without him. I mean, they're kind of, right now they're still like the 5 or 6 seed. That team, if they hadn't gotten Malik Monk, would be in serious trouble. That dude was probably the best pickup of the year. Like in terms of this wave of free agents / COVID signings. I think Malik Monk was probably the best pickup this year.
So the Lakers are currently tied for the 7th spot. Timberwolves at 7, Lakers 8. The Clippers with a win move into a tie there. So they just knocked off the 76ers, which helps our Cavs. The Cavs are officially the 5
Clippers
seed.
won that game?
Yeah.
Wow, they were down by 11 last time I checked. That's crazy.
So the Cavs are officially the 5 seed, which is great.
Let's go.
Yeah, good Cavs. So speaking of the playoffs, we got Mock Homie. Who makes it further in the playoffs?
Shout out Rob.
Mavs
makes it further in the
Grizzlies?
playoffs, Mavs or Grizzlies? I mean, it depends on matchups, but I think the Grizzlies are definitely the better built team for the playoffs. They got a lot of guys who can put the ball in the hoop, play defense. They got a budding superstar in Morant. I think the Mavericks have a lot of questions right now. They're playing a lot better basketball than they were earlier in the year. And if they made it further than the Grizzlies, I wouldn't be shocked. But I think the Grizzlies have much more potential this year than the Mavericks based on what we've seen from them. They've had some of the hottest streaks in basketball. I think at one point they won like 20 or 25 games, 20 or 24. They won 10 in a row, obviously. So, I mean, if the Mavericks hit their stride, it'll be interesting. I mean, Luka's still ridiculously good talent. He hadn't had his best year this year, but if they can get that team going, it'll be interesting. The defense has surprised them playing really well in Dallas, which they haven't had in past seasons. At least recently it has. So I think that's a very interesting question. I think that would be a fascinating series if they played first round. They match up pretty evenly. I like the Grizzlies' depth over the Mavericks' depth personally.
I think that's fair. I think there's probably something to maybe you take Luka over Ja, and if it comes down to it, like big shot in a big moment. We've seen Luka, has a playoff buzzer beater. Now, that's not to discredit Ja, because he had a absolutely nuts series against Utah last season.
Oh yeah.
So I'd be excited to see if that was the 4-5 or a 3-6 matchup. I'd love to see it. I would give the advantage to Memphis.
That series would really remind me of that Utah Denver series we got in the bubble, where it was just, it was Jamal Murray against Donovan Mitchell going back and forth every night. It's one of the best series I've watched in recent memory. I'd love to get something similar to that series. I think probably of all the matchups that we're looking at right now in the playoffs, this series has the best chance of that, because you got one superstar, a lot of good role players on both teams, and they're both teams who potentially could be dark horse contenders in their conferences if everything came together. So it could be interesting.
Yeah,
great question.
Vivid memories of Murray and Mitchell just trading 50 burgers, and then at that point in the bubble, you could still see people. Like, he'd be walking, or one of the guys would be walking around. It's like, oh hey, look, Donovan Mitchell just dropped 57 on our heads. Or it was the bubble was a great time. TJ Warren was awesome at basketball.
It's very underrated because a lot of people don't want that Lakers championship to count. But it's that was a really fun time to watch basketball. It was a neutral court. You had guys, just felt like NBA players, having just living basketball, because they were basically stuck there, and it was interesting. I thought it was a really good time for basketball. Yeah, and also everybody was watching because everyone was home. So.
Yeah, and I think there was it hurt some players. Like, I think Pascal Siakam definitely if he's probably the biggest player that if there's no bubble, if there's no pandemic, I think he's still rising, as opposed to okay, he's good, but he's not Anthony Davis.
Well, another one is Kemba Walker. I mean, Kemba's season in Boston, I think, if I remember correctly, it started pretty well. I think he had an injury before the bubble, but he goes to the bubble and he was just a disaster, and that stretched into last year and a good part of this year. He's slightly turned it around at points, but then he'll go back to that self. But we hadn't really seen that Kemba before the bubble. Before that, he was always a pretty dependable player. But
absolutely,
since then
you had people saying he doesn't need to be on the floor in crunch time, and that's that is cardiac Kemba to a T. That would be oh, this Michael Jordan dude, we don't need him on the floor in the last 5 minutes. Of course you do. You want the clutch guy. You want the MJ or the Kobe or Kemba. And I'm not saying that Kemba is as good as those players, but he does have a reputation of he's going to hit the big shot, whether it was in college at UConn or now with Charlotte or with Boston or with New York now, that he's going to hit the big shot. He's the Damian Lillard of Charlotte, now New York, that he's going to ball in his hands, isolate, and he's going to make the shot 9 times out of 10.
Yeah. Speaking of Lillard, I really hope that he he was struggling earlier this year. I really hope that he comes back better from injury, because he's having that surgery. Now they're saying he's had that injury since 2019. I really hope that, because there's been times where I've been critical of him, but when he's on, he's one of the most exciting players in basketball to watch. And
Amen to that.
And it'll be a shame if we don't get it. We don't get that consistently again. So I hope he comes back from that injury.
For sure.
Yeah.
That actually leads us perfectly into one of our topics. I called him the 2.0 of Jeremy Lin, Anfernee Simons, or the Blazers. Let me read you off some stats. This month,
one of the best players in basketball the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, since January 1st, which happens to be the last game that Damian Lillard played was December 31st. So in 2022. Anfernee Simons is dropping 26 a night, 8 assists on 50% from the field, 43% from three, 90% from the line. Holy crap.
That's crazy. I mean, if you would have told me, granted the Western Conference outside the first 5 or 6, 7 teams is really, really bad. But if you would have told me that the Blazers have played this much of a season without McCollum and Lillard and they're still in a play-in spot, I would have called you crazy. This guy's been phenomenal. I remember when the Cavs were playing them, I was going to that game thinking, this is an easy win. And they struggled a lot because of Simons that night. And the Cavs ended up pulling out, I think, by 13 or 15. But I was like, are we really about to lose to the Blazers without Lillard and McCollum? And reality for a lot of teams now that Simons has been playing the way he is. I mean, he's giving them, I'd almost say that he's the centerpiece of the future there at this point, because Lillard's 31. I don't know if that team's going to be able to compete in Lillard's time. They've made it very clear they don't want to trade Lillard. He's made it very clear he doesn't want to leave, but I think it really should be time for him to go because it just doesn't work as in a timeline. I don't think it's beneficial to him. I don't think it's beneficial to the team for him to be there anymore, personally. But that's just how I feel. I feel the same way with McCollum too. I think a lot of, hopefully he's better from. I forget what it was. It was something pretty serious he had going on there. But he, I feel the same way with McCollum. His best years right now are being wasted due to this.
Absolutely. So I do have a couple stats for you. One is a trivia, and the other is just like a generic stat. So Mr. Anfernee Simons has the second most three-pointers made this month with 38. Do you know who's in first?
Is it a player that we talk about a lot?
It is not a player we have discussed today. You did mention it yesterday when we were on the phone.
Is it Garland?
It is not Darius Garland. The comment
Oh.
section, if you're on YouTube or Facebook or Twitch, sound off.
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm trying to think who's been.
He has 53 of them.
53? Damn, who could it be? Oh man. So is it a player for a really good team?
His team is in a playoff spot, but they are in a play-in spot.
We talk about Garland a lot, man.
Steph Curry's ice-cold self is not the correct answer.
He's been rough this month. Trying to think of who else it could be.
Let me give you.
Is it Jaylen Brown?
It is not Jaylen Brown. He is an NBA champion. Got a ring.
All right. Oh,
and
man.
Mock Homie gets the dub. It is Fred Van Vliet. He's made 53.
That's crazy.
This month.
I saw some of the shots he was hitting the other night, and they were ridiculous. I forget who they. I think it was against the Heat. He hit one where it was like fading away from like 35 feet. I was like, holy crap, this guy's incredible.
Oh, that's my go-to in NBA 2K.
Yeah, it was. He's Van Vliet. Definitely deserving of an All-Star berth this year. I think both him and Garland should be first-time All-Stars in the Eastern Conference this year.
And of course, our boy Jared Allen.
Yeah.
J.A. and Ja for the culture, baby.
Yeah, no, I think at this point they both have to be, but Van Vliet's making an excellent case. Personally, I'd have them both over somebody like LaMelo and somebody like Harden, who's going to get in because of his reputation in fan voting, but has not had a very impressive year this year.
If you look Mr. At numbers, if you look at
exactly, if you look at him on a night-to-night basis, his numbers, some of these nights are just downright atrocious. Like the other night was like, I think against the Cavs, he went 5 for 22, but I think he had 22 points because he made like 10 out of 15 free throws. Which isn't a good free throw percentage either at all. But
I'm walking back from the market here in Tucson, and I'm just like watching the game on my phone. It's like, okay, we're up 4, we're vibing, and then Harden makes one of 3 free throws, 2 of 3. 3 of 3. It's like, what the heck? How do you foul him? And then I'm kidding, not even kidding. 30 seconds later, we're up 3. Oh, James Harden to the free throw line for 3 free throws. Why?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because the NBA said this year they were trying to get rid of that move, the go-to move that we've seen so much the last few years in basketball, where the up fake and the 3-point attempt that ends up being called a foul,
like the Kevin Love special.
Yeah, and we can't really say too much about it. Our boy Kevin Love does that a couple times a night, but I mean, Harden's one of the best players in basketball. It's not fun to watch when there's 5 minutes left in a basketball game, and all of a sudden the guy has 9 free throws in the next 2 minutes. Because
agreed.
But
so let's fire. Okay, so I got a stat for you. I pulled this one up. Most points in the last 8 games. So this is what Simons sample size. I get it. Small sample size, only 1/10 of the season. I get it. Most points in the last 8 games. Embiid, Giannis, Damian Lillard before he left, LeBron, Trey, Devin Booker, Durant, Jokic, Anfernee Simons is 9th.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Also, Zion's in the top 10, but I didn't count him because he hasn't played this year.
Yeah. Trey's season this year is really bit. I mean, he's still not a good defender. He's never been a good defender, but in terms of offensively, that dude's had one of the best seasons we've seen in recent memory. Offensively, he's really the only reason that team is not like bottom receiving basketball right now is Trae Young. If he was having the season he was having last year before the All-Star break, which wasn't bad at all, but it wasn't what he is now, that team would be not even in contention for a playing spot right now. So
he's definitely 28 a night, 9.5 assists. 91% from the free throw line. That is impressive. Yeah. Also 37% on threes when you're shooting 7.5 per game. I'll take it. I'll take it.
I do think the Hawks really have to move John Collins, because you can have one defensive liability on the court in Trae Young, and he fulfills the quote what he's needed offensively. John Collins is a really solid basketball player. Offensively, he's a beast when he's on, but defensively, that guy can't guard anything. And I think big part of the reason why the Hawks are struggling so much is they have 2 huge liabilities defensively on the court. Granted, you have somebody like Capella, who's obviously a great rim protector, but I don't think you can run the Trae Young, John Collins lineup anymore. Personally, I think defensively it's too bad.
Hey, I mean, John Collins is shooting 43% from 3 this season.
Yeah, no, he's a beast offensively. It'd be very interesting for some teams to get him. I just don't think the Hawks are the right team for him.
All right, let's go through a couple questions. We have Dan. He says it'd be a huge downgrade for Boston to move on from Tatum or Brown and replace him with Simmons. I
agree mostly, but I do think that Tatum and Brown play 2 very similar positions, and whereas Simmons, is more of a facilitator, great defender, whereas Tatum and Brown are both guys you want shooting the clutch. They're both guys you want with the ball in their hand, and I feel like if you're giving max money to those 2 players when the rest of your team isn't built, and they've clearly at this point in time aren't going to lead you to a championship, I don't know what the point in keeping both of them. Or I can see the reason of keeping both of them. It kind of seems like it. If they got more value for one of the players, it could potentially make that team better overall. Obviously,
Yeah, I agree.
obviously, if you trade Tatum or Brown for Simmons straight up, it won't be a good trade for the Celtics. But if they could get more value out of them plus Simmons,
Yeah, I had this
so.
conversation with someone in the NBA group chat the other day, and I was like, well, if you're the Cavs, would you rather have James Harden or Jared Allen and then extra flexibility? And it turned it into a James Harden versus Jared Allen. Obviously, Harden is a better basketball player.
Yeah.
Duh. But the value of Allen is that he doesn't make as much money as James Harden. So you're not hamstrung to James Harden as the only piece, right?
Also,
So
the Nets. Wait, no, keep going. I'm sorry.
Yeah, like if he's your third star, that's a much better situation. Like I think the Nets might be better off with Jared Allen and more depth than James Harden. I'm not saying Allen is better than Harden because he's not, but there's like a different value. It's almost, would you rather have one superstar or a star and a couple role players? Depending on the situation, you might prefer to have the star.
Also, if you're looking at the value of that trade, I mean, we've seen how the Cavs would play when either Jared Allen's out or having an off night versus when he's in the lineup. And the Cavs gave up Dante Exum and I think it was the Bucks' first round pick for Jared Allen and Taurean Prince, which ended up leading to the Cavs trading Taurean and a second round pick for Ricky Rubio. So they basically, traded Dante Exum, basically second round pick because it was the Bucks' first rounder, and a second round pick for Jared Allen, Ricky Rubio. I'm taking that trade any day. Versus the Nets had to give up Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, bunch of picks, and had to let Dinwiddie go this offseason. I think there was one more player, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, Taurean Prince, too. And they had to let Dinwiddie go this offseason to get Harden. I'd take that Cavs trade at any day of the week because you're not giving up nearly as much. And Harden doesn't allow the Nets to get any of these players besides guys like Blake Griffin or LaMarcus Aldridge who are playing on minimum contracts that they want to ring.
Right. This I'm on Basketball Reference right now. This trade description is comically long. Like there's usually like 1 or 2 lines. Sometimes it's 3. This one is a whole like 15 lines.
Well,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
funniest
6,
thing.
13 lines.
Yeah. The funniest thing about that day as a Cavs fan was you see the trade and they're like, okay, James Harden's going to Brooklyn, whatever. Well, not whatever, but that was a trade. And it's like, holy crap, the Cavs are getting Jared Allen. Like they just threw that in there. And I think the Nets now really wish they had a player like Jared Allen because Claxton, he's a solid defender, but he's not doing what you need on the offensive side. And I don't know. I think it's pretty obvious Jared Allen's a way better basketball player than Claxton. So
where would you throw Allen in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation right now?
Well, we know Mobley's 5th right now, according to was it coaches voting or something? I forget who it was according to, but that was on social media yesterday. I assume Allen's around 10th to 15th range at worst because he's been fantastic defensively this year.
He has missed some time, but he and Mobley, oh man, that is like
we've got that for the next 4 years.
Yeah, I'm so excited. All right, we got Mock awesome. Homie says, hot take Hawks win a playoff series.
I don't know. I mean, they're getting better now. They've won 2 in a row after not winning at home since November. And if you do look at their trend, it is trending the same way as last season, where they started off, I think, just as bad, if I remember correctly. And they finished with an Eastern Conference Finals first. So, I mean,
great work, Philadelphia.
Yeah. So, I mean, it'd be interesting. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how the matchups would work. I could definitely see them making the playoffs. That's for sure. If they get everything together, they make the right trades for the trade deadline. Because I think this is a very flawed defensive team right now. But if you make the right trades for the trade deadline, I mean, Trae Young's been incredible. So it's a possibility. It's not completely out of question. Though I wouldn't bet on it personally right now. But it's an interesting take.
We have some not breaking news, but LeBron had 25 again tonight, 16 games in a row. There's 3 Lakers before tonight had done that. Can you name them?
Kobe Bryant, sure he did that a bunch of times.
2 more.
I want to say Magic, but I feel like Magic was passing the ball too much.
It was not Magic.
Kareem?
Kareem is not correct. I'll give you a hint. One player won 3 rings with the Lakers. The other one Shaq. Rings.
Shaq.
Yes, Shaq is one. Yeah. The other one 0 rings with the Lakers.
Elgin Baylor?
Yes, Elgin Baylor is correct.
That's crazy.
We have Elgin, Shaq, Kobe, LeBron. What a list.
That's nuts. It's still crazy to me how Elgin never won in 9 appearances. That almost seems like impossible. Like that's like you take the Bills Super Bowl not winnings in the 90s and you think like that's terrible. And then you got this team who's this guy who's doubled that +1. So
yeah,
that's crazy.
And it's like at least with the Bills, right? Like you can argue, okay, well the NFC was always better, and how many inner circle Hall of Famers won those Bills teams? Like you have Bruce Smith, and then you have Thurman Thomas, and then like Jim Kelly's like a good quarterback all time, but he's not like Peyton Manning, and like Andre Reed is like a good AFC receiver, but he's not like Jerry Rice. Then you have like Elgin Baylor, who is an inner circle Hall of Famer. Jerry West is an inner circle Hall of Famer. It's like, oh man,
they had all-time players on those teams.
Yeah, exactly. It's just crazy. Cale Goodrich too.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So Dan says, is the Bulls being the number 1 seed in the East more of a sign of how weak the East is, or how good the Bulls are?
I think the Bulls are really, really good. You got, I think DeRozan's the MVP right now. I'll go on air saying that. I think if DeRozan keeps his play up, he's the MVP. I think, especially if the Bulls keep their seed. Obviously, if the Bulls went down to the 6 or 7 seed, that would change a lot of things. But the Bulls stay in the top 3 or 4 seed, and DeRozan keeps playing the way he is. He's my MVP. And then you got Levine, who's been unbelievable. We got Lonzo, who's looks as good as he's ever looked as a pro. You got Vucevic, who's been very good. Got a lot of really good role players. We saw the other night against the Cavs. Those guys can step up and make their shots, get to the hoop. I'm a big fan of Kobe White, like what he does a lot. So I really believe it's a sign of the Bulls. There's a lot of very good teams in the East. I think the top 6 teams in the East are all very strong. Bulls, Nets, Bucks, Cavs, 76ers, and how am I forgetting one more?
Miami.
Yeah, Miami I think is probably gonna get the 1 seed because they were so good without Jimmy and Bam, and they're still like they didn't have them for like 20 games. They're still tied for the 1 seed. So.
Absolutely. All right, we got formerly Len. I think the Mavs, aside from Luka and Brunson, are completely replaceable. Who do you think we should make a move for?
Interesting question. I think somebody like Miles Turner might be really interesting for the Mavericks. That's somebody who
I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah. That's been the name the Hornets have been really involved with because the Hornets, is it Miles Plumlee? I get those two confused.
Oh man, it's just like generic dunking like prop. That's what I think of the Plumlee brothers.
Yeah, it's fine, but if you're struggling, you want to take it to the next level. Somebody like Miles Turner would be perfect. I think the Mavericks, same thing. I think Porzingis, he's still a good basketball player. I wouldn't blame them for moving out from him either. I think he's definitely replaceable at this point. He has some good games, some bad games. I don't feel like there's a ton of team chemistry there. I love what Jalen Brunson's been doing this year, and Luka's missed a lot of time. So yeah, I think, and they have a lot of interesting guys. The Tim Hardaway Jr.'s, Dorian Finney-Smiths, Kristaps Porzingis of the world. It'll be very interesting to see what they do at the trade deadline.
For sure. Okay, mock homie, Simmons and Maxie for Lillard. Who says no?
Lillard with the 76ers makes so much sense. But would the I don't know. The 76ers have made it clear that they want a crazy amount, but Lillard might be the player that does it because they want a star, they've been saying.
Right.
And Simmons and Maxie
nice this season, 16.5 points per game, 47, 40, 87 on the splits.
Who's that for? Maxie?
Maxie.
Yeah, Maxie's been awesome.
That's a fascinating trade.
I think that's a great trade, honestly. I think that's a great trade. I think gives Philadelphia exactly what they need, especially because they're giving Embiid way too much of a usage rate right now with the player who's been injury prone in the past. I definitely don't. The way Embiid's been awesome this year. I don't want to see anything happen to him. So definitely get another guy who can carry the load offensively would be huge.
For sure.
And it would make that team a lot better. So I think that's a great trade. I think Simmons and Maxie would jumpstart the Trailblazers rebuild process along with Simons. I think at that point you got to trade McCollum too, because at that point you're all in on the future. Yeah, I like that trade. I like that trade a lot.
Speaking of the future, we got an NFL comment from Connor. Josh Allen is already the best Bills quarterback of all time.
Bills QB. Yeah.
I think I agree with that.
I think I agree. Yeah.
Other than maybe Trent Edwards, actually Corey Bojorquez.
I think.
Fun fact.
I mean, after what he did to my Patriots Saturday night.
Oh man, that was unreal.
I couldn't I couldn't believe what he did to that. I mean, that was just it almost was. It wasn't like, I've seen the Patriots have really tough losses before. There was the Giants Super Bowl, the Jets wild card game, the Eagles Super Bowl was especially painful.
The Ravens games.
Well, Ravens games, yes, but usually, the ones that we lost though were blowouts. Well,
that's true.
There was the Welker drop in the 2013 one that completely changed that game around, but that's a totally different conversation. But the first Patriots game I remember really being into was that first the Ravens playoff game when you guys just completely from the first play just killed us. So the ones that were, from the ones that we won were usually the close ones, but yeah, I've seen a ton of tough Patriots losses over the years, a ton of pretty wins, but it just felt really empty about the team after that game, because it's kind of like, how far did we really come this year? Because there was a lot of easy games this year. I still believe in Mac. I still believe there's a lot of pieces defensively, but I think there's definitely some work that has to be done, especially with the receiving core. I don't think I like Kendrick Bourne a lot, but I think besides that, but the defense, clearly has work to do as well after Saturday, because that was just, I don't think it ever happened in football history before, right?
No, I don't think so either. That was just sad.
Yeah, that was just. I mean, from the first possession, I didn't have any faith, really. Like, I mean, obviously it's my team, I believe, but when they went down the field so easily that first drive, it's like, we're not stopping them.
No. Speaking of sad, Max says Heat are coming out of the East, sadly.
I think that's a great pick. I mean, what they've shown without Butler and Bam this year is that they have a lot of depth and a lot of players that can really play. And I think that's a fair take. I still probably say the Bucks are the favorite in the East.
Agreed.
I think they had a tough start due to what, 3 months between the end of their season and the start of this season. So or not even 3 months, I think. Well,
it was longer than the Lakers had, but it was like very short.
Yeah, the Lakers had even less time, but yeah, I think the Heat coming out is a very fair take, though. I mean, if Jimmy and Bam can stay healthy, because obviously they've had their injury issues. The Bucks, though, that Bucks team is really, really good. I mean, the Nets obviously you have to worry about, especially you gotta worry about KD's health now, and Kyrie is the constant whatever's going on with Kyrie. But if the Nets put it together, they could be competitive. I think the Cavs could be an upset watch for a lot of teams. I don't know if we'll make the finals this year, but I think the Eastern Conference Finals is a possibility if everything went right. The Bulls are really, really good. 76ers, if they got somebody like a Lillard, would be really, really tough. So there's a lot of really good teams, but yeah, I think the Heat are a good pick right now. Okay,
gun to your head. What's the finals matchup? Don't think, just say it.
Bulls, Warriors.
East, West, who is it?
Bulls, Warriors.
Bulls, Warriors. Okay.
I said the Bucks are the favorites before, but it depends, because if DeRozan goes to Frozen the playoffs again,
good point,
they're losing in the first round probably. But because they'll probably end up with the 3 or the 4 seed, so they're not gonna have an easy matchup first round. But if DeRozan keeps playing the way he has this year, which I think he's really found his game because he can get to the spot really easy with the way they space the floor, and he's just been incredible. I mean, some of those shots he hit against the Cavs, they were just unbelievable. It's like, what are you supposed to do? I think if DeRozan plays really well, I think that team's going to be very hard to beat in a 7-game series.
So you mentioned DeRozan as an MVP guy. I'm on Basketball Reference, their MVP tracker. Guess where DeRozan is?
7th.
He is not on the top 10.
That's crazy. I mean, he's just, I don't know. I think he's completely changed the culture of that franchise this year.
So they have Jokic, Giannis, KD, Embiid, CP3, Gobert, Steph, Harden at 8, LeBron at 9, Shaw at 10. Yeah, Harden at 10 or Harden at 8. That one's goofy.
Yeah, I don't get that. And what were the top 5 again? You said
Jokic, Giannis, KD, Embiid, and CP3.
CP3 being up there is weird to me. I don't know.
The Suns are 35-9 though.
They're very good. But I don't know. CP3, it's just weird having a guy Gobert. LOL. It's weird having a guy up there who doesn't put up that crazy of numbers. And
I mean, 14 I feel like 10, Booker 2 steals.
What?
14 and 10, 2 steals for CP3.
I feel like Booker, if CP3 is in the conversation, I feel like Booker deserves to be in the conversation. That's all I'll say.
Fair. Did you know that Harden is averaging 4.8 turnovers per game this year?
Really?
Yeah, it's bad.
I don't see what he's done to be in the MVP. Wait, so he's on there, but Durant isn't?
Durant's 3.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear you say Durant. I was like, what are you?
Yeah, exactly. So okay. Jokic, Giannis, Durant, Embiid, CP3.
Okay. Gobert being on there is weird to me, but I respect it due to how bad the Jazz were with him out. But they're looking pretty bad with him in too. So the Jazz have a lot of moves to make. I think Marcus Smart is a perfect player for them. Defensive wing, can shoot the ball, tough guy. They need some toughness defensively. The wings are just terrible defenders there.
For sure. So Connor, who do you think has the most potential out of Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, and Trey Lance?
I'll go and say Trey Lance. Personally, I agree with you. Yeah, I think this year of experience is really going to help. And it might even be 2 years. It might even be in 2 years. We don't know how far they're going to go with Jimmy. Is Jimmy? When is Jimmy's contract year?
I believe it's next year that they can. But he's under contract the next 2 years.
So there's a decent chance they trade him this offseason. But if they don't, I still think Trey Lance has a ton of potential. He's been good when he's played. I think the dude is a great combination of skills as a quarterback. Lawrence is hard to say everything about because he didn't look particularly great this year, but the Jaguars are so dysfunctional. It's hard to say. Zach Wilson looked really good at the end of the year.
He was really polished. Yeah, I know you get looped into this. Like you've been on uSTADIUM. I work for uSTADIUM.
Of course.
I guess you technically work for uSTADIUM now. Yeah, shout out to uSTADIUM.
Yeah, that's crazy. I do work for uSTADIUM.
Yeah. Wow. So Zach Wilson, we got it shoved down our throats for the last month, just like we did with Sam Darnold when he had a nice game against the Packers in 2018. So that's there, but at the same time, he was actually pretty solid the last month or so. And he wasn't turning the ball over quite as much. And they posted a stat today, and he had the most red zone dropbacks without a turnover-worthy play. That's impressive.
Yeah, I mean, he that game against the Patriots, against the Buccaneers. If they had kicked the field goal rather than going for it on 4th down there, they're at least going to overtime with the team you could argue is going to make the Super Bowl. I mean,
yeah, for sure.
So and it wasn't like the Bucs were packing it in there either. Like the Bucs wanted to win that football game. So.
Well, Antonio Brown didn't, but the rest of the Bucs did.
Yeah, but they were losing when Brown went out. To be fair, so the Jets did play a really good football game.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would say I think Trey has the highest. He has a ceiling high enough that if all of them reach their potential, I think it's Lance 1, might be Wilson 2, just the raw arm ability that he has. I think Lawrence has the lowest ceiling, but he also is the highest. Yeah, he has the highest chance to get to that ceiling. And Lance, if Lance hits, it's an if Lance hits, we are talking about like a cross between Lamar Jackson and like Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Or
they got
Mahomes with like more rushing ability.
Yeah, his combination of speed and arm ability is crazy. So if he can really capitalize on it, that could be really interesting to see him play in the field. It could be like a better version of what we saw for Kaepernick for a couple of years there, when he was just,
terrorizing
strong,
the Packers,
fast. I mean, what he did to the Packers those 2 games was crazy, and his arm was just, unbelievable,
like a howitzer
strength. So I think it would be very interesting to see if Trey Lance reaches potential for sure.
For sure. So Max says Bulls are a second round exit. How do you feel about Bulls as a second? You said, gun to your head, they'd make the finals. Defend that.
I mean, I can see defensively them having issues, but they have so much scoring on that team. And yes, in the playoffs you need defense, but I don't see them being a definite out regardless who they play, because they have so many guys who can put the ball in the basket. Like whether it's their role players, their top 4 obviously, ridiculously good at putting the ball on the basket. And I think that a team that's exceeded expectations this quickly and is still growing is scary, because it's the same way I feel with the Cavs, where the Bulls weren't supposed to, people expected the Bulls to be better this year, but more like a high play-in, 6 seed.
Like I didn't think they'd be the 2 seed, 1 seed in the East.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like DeRozan for MVP. What? I know him as like the guy LeBron owns.
Yeah, right. So like obviously if DeRozan slows down, LaVine. LaVine's been pretty good for the past 3 years. I don't think he's slowing down, but or if Lonzo's injury ends up lingering, if any of those things happen, they're screwed. But if they keep playing the basketball they're playing right now, I think they're going to be able to contend with anyone. And a team that's just came together like this, they missed quite a bit of time due to COVID and stuff too, and still been able to play as well as they have. I think they're just going to keep growing. So we'll see what happens. Sure. But I can't see them having trouble due to those teams' playoff experience and somebody's like DeRozan's lack of being good experience in playoffs. So it'll be interesting.
All right, Connor, if you're the Panthers, do you draft Kenny Pickett or Matt Corral, or do you try to get Kirk Cousins? I haven't heard Cousins' name thrown out there much.
Cousins would be interesting, but I think the Panthers should be in rebuild mode. I think if anything, they should be going offensive line very early. Because with a team like that, if you get Kirk Cousins, he's still gonna make sacks. You know what I mean? Like, it's not gonna really make a difference there. So I can see why those rumors would come up, but I don't know if he'd look much better than Sam Darnold if he didn't have a clean pocket. You know what I mean?
You're not wrong. I do think. Okay, so what are the Panthers going to do? They're not going to draft a quarterback. They're not going to trade for a quarterback. They're going to say, Matt Rule, you have Sam Darnold, figure it out. And if you don't, you're gone. And if Darnold doesn't figure it out, you're gone. So they have a very easy out if they just suck again. Which, if I'm a Panthers fan, I am rooting for them to be absolutely awful this year. So you can get Bryce Young or or Stroud, and just move on. Just move on. Get Rule out of town.
You have a great defense there.
Yeah, you have that defense is still going to be there. Brian Burns, J.C. Horn, Jeremy Chin, Shaq Thompson, Gilmore, they're all going to be there.
Guy that another one of Belichick's decisions, just let him go. Genius decisions.
Yep. Just punt this season because Rule's not going anywhere for a year. Darnold's not going anywhere for a year. What I would do, I would have fired Rule. I would have sent Darnold to the moon, and I would have cut Cam and cut PJ Walker if it's financially viable to do so.
I think PJ Walker has shown potential. I think PJ Walker looked the best out of any of them this year, if I'm being honest.
I agree. I don't necessarily agree. I don't disagree with you. I think that's fine. I would rather have PJ Walker on my team than Darnold or Cam, because at a certain point, it's like the Kaepernick discussion. Like, say 2016. Would you rather have Flacco or Kaepernick? Probably Kaepernick, but I would rather not have a chaos at my quarterback spot. So I'll keep Flacco if I'm a Ravens fan, or Dalton or Kaepernick, or all these conversations across the league. I would rather keep the guy that is probably the best as a backup in PJ Walker, and maybe if he has to play in like emergency duty, that's fine, like a Tyler Huntley role.
Well, yeah, with Cam, there's always going to be the discussion. I don't think Cam really wants to be a backup either. Like Cam's always talked purely as a starter. I think if Cam's, because I have a hard time believing that the Patriots didn't give Cam an opportunity to be a mentor / wildcat quarterback this year. I have a hard time believing the Patriots didn't give him a chance to. What I believe is that Belichick went to him and said, "Look, Max gonna be the starter, and Cam, because they both have a ton of respect for each other still. So clearly,
because Cam is brilliant. Like when he was coming out of Auburn, it's okay. He can run, he can throw. No, the man is gifted. He is like a top 5 smart quarterback in the league.
Yeah. No,
it's just I don't want to say an ego thing, but it's just like Cam thinks of himself as a top 30 quarterback. So that is a starting quarterback.
When you know that much about what you want to do as the quarterback position, you're always going to have faith in yourself.
And it's very much like Ben Roethlisberger. Pittsburgh is going to move on from him, right? So whether he wants to retire or not, he's not the starting quarterback for the Steelers next year.
Yeah. I have a hard time believing anybody else would want to get him.
Exactly. Yeah, could he be a backup? Sure, but how much value does he bring as a backup if he wants to be a starter and wants to be paid like a starter?
Yeah.
All right. Lexamon says, do you guys think with how much momentum Jonathan Taylor has had in his last 2 years, he can make a Hall of Fame level argument for himself later in career?
Of course. Yes, I definitely do. I think
I do agree with Len that it's a little too early to tell, but yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm. I think Pollard's the running back of the future there.
Yes, facts.
Sure. I really like Pollard. I think it was last year when Zeke missed some time, Pollard had to play, and he looked really good. And then the Cowboys completely stopped using him when Zeke came back. I said that Pollard was better than Zeke, and a lot of Cowboys fans were really mad at me. And now a lot of them agree.
Was. Yeah. I mean, you have explosiveness with Pollard that you haven't had with Zeke since 2017. And I'm not saying Zeke is a bad player, but I think Pollard is more what you want. And I know Zeke is an awesome pass protector, but at a certain point, if pass protection is the only thing you can bring, you can get guys off the street that can pass protect and for much cheaper. It's just so, I think the Cowboys are in a mess. I think part of it's like with Jerry Jones being so hands-on as an owner that you run into these, if they aren't winning a Super Bowl, the sky is falling in Dallas. The sky is falling right now. He torched McCarthy in the interview today. He torched Amari Cooper in the interview today.
I didn't see that part.
Yeah, that is like Amari Cooper might be out of town. So like that's this crazy. Legendary receiver core with Lamb and Cooper and Gallup and Cedric Wilson and Noah Brown. You might be looking at a very different core next year with Gallup potentially out and Cooper a trade guy. And if you're Jets app, right? If you're the Jets and you trade for Amari Cooper, who cares about drafting Drake London or Jameson Williams? Just hit on Cooper. You know he's going to be good. You have tons of money. Or Ridley. Or why not get both of them? Probably not going to happen. But actually, take that back. Jets fans will say it's happening, and then they're going to sign J.C. Jackson, and then they're going to sign Marcus Williams, and then they're going to have like a bunch of trades in the draft and get like Thibodeau and Hutchinson at like 25 and 32.
Yeah. Give me a couple of weeks before I talk about J.C. Jackson because I'm still getting over his performance on Saturday night.
Absolutely. I do. I like Pollard as a top 10 back. I don't think I would necessarily have him.
Take. His yards per carry this year is crazy. I think. Yeah. What was it, like 5 point something?
I think he and Allen that tied for the most.
Could have been.
I believe so because I know it wasn't Lamar Jackson for the first time in his career. Actually, for the first time in his career as like a big time starter.
Yeah.
Well, Lamar will bounce back.
Yeah, Lamar will be good. Lamar definitely needed this offseason to come in.
It was Rashad Penny. So Allen 1, Penny 2, Lamar 3. Pollard was tied for 5th with Chubb and Sanders and Jonathan Taylor.
Oh man, it makes me so mad how how the Browns season went down. They weren't giving the ball to Chubb like they should have been down the stretch of that season.
Especially with no Hunt. So it's not like an issue of they're just passing and giving the ball to Hunt more. It's just like, why are you not using your super star running back?
Like, everyone's blaming Baker, and Baker deserves a ton of blame, even though he was hurt. He was awful. But you'd think with your quarterback playing that bad, you'd be like, okay, maybe we should use our superstar running back now.
I don't know. Maybe run behind your middle 3 offensive linemen that you just paid. Yeah. Right? Like, you have an all-pro left guard who was... I don't have words to describe how good Joel Bitonio was. He was in my team of the week 8 out of 17 times, including once as a left tackle. Wow. And then Treader's awesome. Yeah, Teller is awesome. It's like, you have this, and then Conklin was there for half the season, so I get he missed about half the season. He got injured. I believe he just got steamrolled by Odafe Owe and was out for the season. So your right tackle is a mess. Jedrick Wills was whatever at left tackle. You have 3 superstars running the ball. They're all better run blockers and pass blockers too. Like, just run behind Wyatt Teller 20 times a game, and you're going to win that. You're going to win football games.
That last drive against the Packers, why they weren't running the ball to me just made no sense. Like, why was Baker putting the ball in the air there with the way Chubb was running the ball? I don't know.
And he had 3 picks already, and he throws a 4th one. It's like, we told you so.
And that team's so good. They almost beat the best team in football without a quarterback. Actually,
essentially. Quarterback. Like, I don't know. Like, I get it. Like, it's cool as a Ravens fan, like, watching the Browns fail, but at the same time, I had money on the Browns to win the division. It's like, oh my lord. And they beat the Bengals twice.
Yes.
Get swept by Pittsburgh, beat the Bengals twice.
So,
make it make sense.
Anyway, my guy, formerly Len, said it's crazy because it's not even Amari's fault that he's not producing with Dak and Johnson. I agree. I was not impressed with Dak down the stretch of this year, and I think in the first half of that game, he didn't give the ball to Amari at all, it felt like.
Or CD.
I don't know what he was doing. Targets. Yeah, I don't know what he was doing until the last couple drives, or not even last couple drives. There was a couple drives towards the end of the third, maybe the fourth, where Dak seemed to have it figured out, but I don't know what he was doing most of that game. It made no sense.
And it's just like, you have Kellen Moore is a good play caller. You have 2 good running backs. You have a great offensive line. You have 3 star receivers, 2 star receivers with Gallup out, and then Cedric Wilson's a nice third option. You have a nice tight end and Schultz, and it's just, at some point you got to make a play. You have to make something happen, and Dak just kind of lets the game pass.
Yeah.
So it's like
he seems way too conservative at times, Dak. For his own good.
Agree.
Which leads to not throwing picks, but it's going to win you football games.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, he's shown that he can win football games at times, but
he's 1-3 in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I think I remember heading into last season, I did my quarterback tiers, and I had I had Dak over Lamar, but I had them in different tiers.
Yeah.
Because what Lamar does is just totally different. So I had Dak as like a steady star, and Lamar is a volatile superstar. So like, if you take the average, Dak is better than Lamar, but Lamar has so many games that he's just better than what. Yeah, exactly. Like, he can go out and win the Ravens games, right?
Dak won't lose you games, but he's not going to win you that many games. He's had games Dak's won before, though. But also,
like, Dak's
the other
not going to throw 4 picks
Dak,
against Cleveland.
Yeah, the other conversation about Dak, that for Cowboys fans might be a little bit depressing, but has he really improved since his rookie season? I mean, when we saw Dak come on the scene, it was awesome. I mean, he replaced Tony Romo, who'd been the quarterback for the past decade, like that. And
he replaced a borderline Hall of Famer immediately.
And the guy he wasn't a bad quarterback, Romo, at that point either. Like, he wasn't as good as he'd been a few years before, but he was still a very good quarterback, or very solid quarterback. I won't say very good, but he came in there and he played great football, and it doesn't feel like he's really improved that much since then.
No, I agree. And like, Romo was a Pro Bowler in 2014, his last full season, and then you're like, okay, and you bring in Dak, and Dak is in 2016. Dak was awesome. It's like, okay, great.
Yeah,
we went from
the next 20 years at quarterback set.
Yeah, it's like we went from a borderline MVP caliber quarterback in Romo. Like, he had some awesome years. He led the league in passer rating in 2014 even. He had I believe, so he started I think he started 9 years as the primary starter from 06 to 14. His pass rating was above 90 in every single season. Like, there were a couple years he might get interception happy. You know, he had, 19 in 2012. It happens. But he always had like a high completion percentage, high yards per attempt. Very good quarterback, borderline Hall of Fame quarterback. And Dak just immediately comes in and is like, okay, I'm really good at football now.
Yeah, and the other thing with the conversation about Romo too is the NFL was still in that period between interceptions really matter and don't matter, or don't matter that much. So high interception seasons, I feel like were a lot more excusable back then than they are now. Connor said Dak is Teddy Bridgewater 2.0. I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, but, Teddy's really low floor, really low ceiling. Sorry.
Teddy
he does such a weird year this. Yeah, Teddy is such a.
Yeah, people are
this
calling
year
him
was so weird.
Yeah,
he like almost flipped with Locke. Like if you look at like the metrics, it's like Bridgewater was turning the ball over left and right and putting the ball in harm's way left and right, but he was like actually making some throws. And remember, the Broncos dropped their nuts on the Cowboys.
Yeah, he said he wanted to make higher risk throws this year because he was basically just checking it down last year and not really doing any high risk throws. Right. I thought he did a pretty good job for a good portion of the season, but towards the end of the season, he did not play well.
No. But then Drew Lock comes in. It's like, okay, of course, like the last month of the season that Drew Lock becomes Jesus. It's like,
I think the thing about Dak is fair. Him being 24 years old as a rookie. It's kind of like the same thing me and Matt Comey have talked about with Chris Duarte, the Pacers, I believe he's shooting guard. Very good right now as a rookie, but he's 25 years old. How much is he going to improve over his career versus a guy like Evan Mobley, who's is he 20 yet?
I don't think so.
I think he's still 19.
Is it Mobley and I that have the same birthday? I know I share a birthday with one of the Cavs.
That's crazy. Yeah. Could have been. Yeah, so he's either 19 or 20. He's already ridiculous. He's going to keep improving. Granted, the Pacers had the 13th pick, but still, how much of the Pacers, a team that's about to go in full rebuild, going to get out of a guy like Chris Duarte? I don't know. I mean, he's a good basketball player, but no.
Okay, I think the young player I'm thinking of that I share a birthday with is Najee Harris, but I will look up if there's any March 9th birthdays.
Let me see when Mobley was born.
Because it's June 18th.
2001 or 2002?
Yeah, 2001.
Okay, so he's 20. Yeah. So but he's gonna be ridiculous, Mobley. I mean,
I like to throw the transcendent word around. Like when Lonzo came out, I thought he was a transcendent passer, which ended up being not quite true. But hey, the thought.
I mean, he's getting there now. But
I share a birthday with one of my favorite players ever, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf.
That's cool. That dude was at the free throw line was crazy. Never missed free throws.
He was like the original Steph almost.
Yeah. No, he's somebody who would have fit this era so well.
Yes. If we do over the off season, we could do a show like building like the all 2020 roster, but from guys that never played before 2000. He is the starting point guard of that team.
We definitely have to do that. That'd be awesome.
I'm into that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got the conversation on 2020 MVP Dak Prescott. So he and Mitch Trubisky share an honor. And both of them are Pro Bowlers.
And both of them are Nickelodeon MVPs too.
Yeah. And Mitch Trubisky is about to win a Super Bowl with the Bills. So
that leads us into another conversation, which I was a little worried we weren't gonna get to, but
this man, he is spitting facts.
Yes, that's facts. But do you want to talk about the NFL games this year?
We can.
Wait, hold on. This is a really interesting take that I did want to talk about. Donald's gonna have Brady. Well, I did say Donald would have Brady in hell. Or I didn't say it, but I was worried about it when the Patriots played the Rams in 2019. But the offensive line was performing so well. I wasn't too I had a good feeling that they'd be able to, still, I mean, he still did really. I mean, the Patriots
13 points.
Yeah, Donald really could give him a tough time.
I do
especially who's the offensive lineman that might be out?
Is Marpet playing?
Or the one who got hurt twice last game.
Wirfs.
Yeah.
So Wirfs and Donald aren't really going to match up. Wirfs is the right tackle. Donald's an interior guy. But I do think Tampa has like a nice enough middle three with Marpet, Kappa, and Ryan Jensen. Although Jensen was banged up a little bit last week. Yeah, so Connor's right. That could be. That's an interesting one. And if there's anything we know with Brady, it's that interior pressure screws with him.
Yes, I mean, if you look back at the Jets 2010 game or either the Giants game, there's wide open receivers all over the field, but the pressure got to him. Because the thing with Brady, if you give Brady the open, quick pass, doesn't matter if you're pressure, but if you're jamming those guys off the line, bringing pressure, guys in his face, that's the way to beat Brady. That's been the formula when the Jets beat him. That's been the formula when the Giants beat him.
The Ravens beat him. Hello, Nada.
Yeah.
Even like the Giants, that's just overwhelming. When you can get pressure with a particularly interior pressure against Brady, you can beat Brady.
Yeah.
Like he may be the GOAT, but he's not God, right?
Yeah. So I think that's a very good take. I think that game's going to be surprisingly low scoring, like 17-16 type of game, 17-13. Outside pressure usually doesn't faze Brady because he steps up, but the Rams are so good at collapsing the pocket. That's facts, because you see all the time when Brady has great pocket awareness. He's not going to, I mean, besides in the fourth quarter against the Eagles in the Super Bowl, he's not going to fumble the football.
Yeah. He did fumble against the Rams week 3. Donald got to him. So
I do not remember that game at all, so that's news to me. I have no recollection of that football game happening.
It was funny because PFF didn't grade that as a turnover-worthy play.
Right?
Yeah, the Rams won.
Yeah, because the Rams started like 4-0, 3-0.
Yeah, 38-20, I believe. Because actually, I saw one of the WTF stats was the 3 repeat games this week. So Niners, Packers, Bucks, Rams, and Bills, Chiefs. All of them ended with scores of 58 points.
Wow.
So you had 38-20 in the Chiefs-Bills game was 38-20. The Rams-Bucks game, I believe, was 34-24. And then the Packers-Niners game was 30-28. It's like,
that's crazy.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm really excited for that Packers 49ers game. I have no idea what to expect out of that one.
Yeah, that's going to be fun because like San Francisco can run the ball on anyone, but will they run the ball? But at the same time...
But they should, because the Packers have the 31st ranked run defense in football.
Yeah, it's like, and you don't want to like throw at Jair Alexander who's coming back. It's like, okay, just spam Debo, put Ayuk in the backfield, spam Elijah Mitchell, who's awesome last week.
Yeah.
I'm really excited. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if I'm sitting here tomorrow with Jack and like talking about, hey, the Niners are about to pull this upset.
Yeah, no, I think it's gonna be really interesting. And the Packers, obviously it's different football teams, but the 49ers have had the Packers number in the playoffs the last decade.
This is true. And this is the best part. The Packers are subject to the Cousins curse.
What's the Cousins curse?
If you lose to Kirk Cousins in the regular season, you cannot win the Super Bowl.
Really? I never heard of that. Well, to be fair, those type of records are meant to be broken, but that is interesting.
Yes. So, speaking of meant to be broken, Mock Homie says if Mahomes wins the Super Bowl this year, he becomes top 3 all time.
Rob, who's Mac Homie, knows how I feel about that. But I do think he puts himself definitely in that, 2 Super Bowls plus the stats he's put up throughout his career.
He had a down year this year and had 42 touchdowns.
Yeah. Definitely puts himself undisputably in that, like, top, at least like that Drew Brees range of quarterbacks, like without a doubt, like already.
Top 10, 100%.
Yeah, 100%. And in terms of peak, I think Mahomes, you could already say, obviously he had one of the best quarterback seasons ever, so in his first full season playing football, so it's not an unfair take.
Right. So we do have some basketball breaking news. Dejounte Murray, triple-double.
Dude, I will go on air saying he is the most underrated player in basketball. You said DeJounte, right?
Yeah, DeJounte Murray.
Yeah. No, he's been awesome this year. He's almost averaging a triple-double. He can do it all. He's a great defender. That dude, if he was on any team besides the Spurs, he'd be getting a ton of recognition this year. But unfortunately, nobody cares about the Spurs basketball post 2017.
For sure. Connor, where does Stafford rank all time if he wins a Super Bowl this year?
I don't know about all time, but his numbers, because he's had some of the most passing yard seasons ever, and his talent, he has one of the strongest arms, I think.
Yeah, he was a deserving number 1 pick.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great pick. Definitely a great number 1 pick, regardless of his playoff wins or whatever. Because I think that stat is a little bit skewed because the Lions are just perennial chokers. He had a good game.
Just say the Lions. It just skewed the Lions.
He had a good game against the Saints in his first playoff game. I remember that game. It's just the Saints were unbeatable at home at the time. Right. And then his second playoff game, the refs really screwed him. That was
Seattle, Dallas one. That's right.
Dallas, yeah, the one where Pettigrew had his whole jersey held and they didn't call it.
Yep.
And then
Dallas got screwed the next week with the
and
then the Packers blew the Pack. Oh Lord.
Yeah.
I still can't believe the Packers lost that game.
That's one of the worst played but most fascinating football games ever.
Amen to that. And it was 9 years ago yesterday, I think.
No, not 9 years ago. 7 years ago.
Yeah, you're right. 7 years ago.
I was gonna say there's no way in hell that was 9. But yeah, I don't know where to rank Stafford in terms of quarterbacks. I mean, could we say like top 30, top 25-ish?
Yeah, I think so. Like statistically, he's currently 12th in passing yards, 12th in passing touchdowns, 12th in attempts, 11th in completions. He's 21st all time in passer rating. He's actually, I got a trivia question for you.
Okay.
What active player has thrown the most pick sixes?
Matt Stafford.
Yeah. Stafford is 27 of them. Yeah, he is 27. Guess who's second?
It's somebody who still starts?
Yes.
I'm assuming it's an older quarterback?
Yes.
Ben Roethlisberger? No.
Roethlisberger is tied for third.
Oh, so I was close.
Brady is also tied for third.
Brady's tied for third. Okay. Shoot. What could it be? I have no clue, honestly.
It is Matty Ice.
Wow. That's actually not that shocking because when things go bad in Atlanta, they go really bad, but I still like Matt Ryan. Or Matt Ryan's been a staple of consistency there for the most part.
14 years as a starter.
Yeah. And he's been top 10 most of his career.
Yeah, top 5 is Stafford with 27, Ryan with 19, Brady and Ben with 18, Andy Dalton with 16.
That's not surprising at all.
Then we have the BOAT and Fitzpatrick with 13 each.
Fitzpatrick's the funniest football player of all time.
Yeah, he's up there.
He's hilarious.
Dak has 6 of them.
That guy had a perfect Wonderlic score, and yet he managed to throw in triple coverage like 3 times a game.
He's actually figured it out. Like I'm really proud of Fitzpatrick that it's like he has this. It's like goes to Harvard, has a 49 on the Wonderlic, and then he is a pure gunslinger. But he's really figured out his role, and it's nice. And it sucks that he got injured this year.
No, it sucks he didn't play. He was awesome with the Dolphins last year. Actually, I think they would have made the playoffs and been a tough team to beat if they stuck with him.
I think he led the league in QBR. I could be wrong, but I think he was up there.
They went away from him that quick. They should have played him like Garoppolo this year.
He had a 71 QBR, which would have led the league this year.
It made 0 sense for him to go away from him. I said at the time, and that's a team that should have definitely made the playoffs. What were they, like 8-4, something like that?
The Dolphins. When
9-4?
They were 4-3 when he started, but they went 10-6 overall.
What was the record when he started his last football game?
I think they were like 4-3.
They definitely were doing better than that, if I remember correctly. He was playing really well. Maybe it was like they started off poorly and then he found his stride. I don't know, but he was balling.
Let's see. They started 1-3. They won the next. Then they went to 6-3. And then they had some games that Tua came in, right? Like Tua started, and then Fitzpatrick would come in and save the day.
Yeah.
It's crazy that if they beat the Chiefs, that was a winnable game. If they beat the Broncos, that was a winnable game. If they beat the Bills week 2, that was a winnable game. I think that was the game that Micah Hyde had that was a winnable game. The Seahawks game was
Bills
winnable.
Week 17 game was not a winnable game.
No, that was not winnable. They did put up 450 yards of total offense, though.
Who?
Miami.
Against the Bills?
4 turnovers,
17?
yeah.
Wow.
They had 4 turnovers, though. So Tua unraveled. That was the game Fitzpatrick missed with COVID.
Right. So let's talk about these playoff matchups this weekend real quick.
All right.
What are your picks this weekend?
I don't have Jack's graphic. Okay. I actually did make a video with my picks, and I will throw it up tomorrow morning. But my picks, here we go. I got the Cincinnati Bengals knocking off the Tennessee Titans.
Let's go. I got them too.
Okay. I have the Green Bay Packers knocking off the San Francisco 49ers.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. Though I don't know what's going to happen in that game, but
I have the Rams upsetting the Buccaneers.
Wow.
Hey, look. You told me the Eagles were going to beat the Bucks, so I should not be. You should not be surprised here.
Okay, fair.
All right, and then I have the Kansas City Chiefs losing to the Buffalo Bills.
Wow, our picks are the same besides the Bucks game, which I picked the Eagles to beat them last week. So I agree on everything. I think people are making too much of Tennessee being able to control that game. At the end of the day, Burrow's the hottest quarterback. Or Allen's put himself in that conversation last week. But
I mean, Burrow's just been unconscious for like a
Burrow's
month.
Been ridiculous. And I think what people aren't really taking into account is if Joe Mixon needs to get involved in that game.
100%.
He needs to be a big time player. But I think if Joe Mixon's able to get very involved, it'll open the field for Chase and the receivers. And you don't know what you're getting with a running back in his first week back. I know Derrick Henry isn't human.
It's like King Henry, and he played in their game last year against the Bengals. That was the worst Bengals team, and the Bengals beat them. That was I know I can't take all of the 2020 Titans and the 2021 Titans are very different teams. The 2021 Titans can get people off the field, because like in 2020 they had the worst third down defense in NFL history. This year is much better. So, but I'm going to go better quarterback. I think Burrow is playing with a lot of swagger, and Derrick Henry is Derrick Henry. And I would make this pick in a heartbeat and say, I don't care if it's fully healthy A.J. Brown, fully healthy Julio Jones, fully healthy Derrick Henry. I think the Bengals are the better team. I think the Bengals have the better quarterback, and I think they can do just enough to throw off like Tannehill. Like, all it takes is one play. All it takes is a Awuzie with an interception, Bates with an interception, Jermaine Pratt like a tip over the middle. And
Rob said the Titans beat the Bengals. I think that's a perfectly fair opinion, but I'm going with Bengals too. I think Josh Allen beats out Mahomes. I'm never watching.
He's gonna do it. I have a video. I have a 7-minute video on this channel. I think there's a very
good chance they do it too.
Yeah, I have a 7-minute video explaining. It's called. Let me look it up. It is called.
I have 8% on my computer, by the way.
All right. It's called "Bills Will Win Super Bowl 56 After Historic Playoff Run from Josh Allen." I have it is a 7:38 video. If you'd like to check it out. I don't want it to happen either.
I'm very.
I want the Lamar. I want the Lamar Allen debate to be like a thing. Connor says, "Watch out for Julio in this game."
I could see it. He's a big time player. I could definitely see it. He hasn't done anything this year, but I could see it.
Bengals can't beat teams
who don't blitz. Titans barely ever blitz and have a great secondary. We'll see.
Is it a great secondary though? It's a solid secondary. And he said, okay, this one I have issues with. He says the Bengals can't stop the run. The Bengals are in the top half of the league in yards allowed per rush, and they're 5th in rushing yards allowed per game. I mean,
I think the one place where the Titans really could end up beating the Bengals and end the Bengals season is the coaching. Vrabel is an excellent coach.
Unreal.
Taylor is not. Even though
That's
they're having
true.
success, I think that team's just extremely talented, and
Mhm.
I think Taylor will have to prove himself as a coach to win this game. When is
Yeah,
it Sunday? No, it's
agree.
tomorrow, right?
I agree. I think the talent gap between Cincinnati and Tennessee is close enough that if Vrabel is in his bag, and both of us have seen him get in his bag.
Yes.
If he gets in his bag, the Bengals are toast.
Yeah.
Maybe not toast, but the Bengals will need a Joey Burr game. Like, yes. I think Burrow can just do that just randomly, but here's a stat: the Bengals haven't turned the football over since December 12th.
Jesus, that's crazy.
That's at Broncos, Ravens. We don't force turnovers.
They almost lost that game for Broncos. I remember that was
that was a good game. That was a really good game.
Very close game. Yeah.
Broncos, Ravens, Chiefs, Browns without Burrow, and then Raiders last week. So can the Titans force a turnover? The Titans have been able to force some turnovers this year. You know, they have Kevin Byard had a terrific season. They forced 22 turnovers on the season, so the top half. Byard had an incredible season, all-pro safety. You know, Harold Landry, can Harold Landry figure out what the heck he is doing? Because he had, I think, 10 sacks in 10 weeks and then fell off a cliff the last 2 months of the season. So what are you going to get from Landry? You know, what are you going to get from Henry? His first game action back. What are you going to get from Tannehill? Because Tannehill, you know, 14 interceptions, bunch of fumbles. Like, I'm
not high on Tannehill at all. Never have been. Probably never will be.
Do you know what player led the Titans in passer rating this year?
So, like, did AJ Brown have a couple of passes or something? I don't know.
It is not AJ Brown. It is a player. Yeah, it is Derrick Henry, 127.
I remember he had that pass. Yeah.
Yep, he had a touchdown against was it Pittsburgh.
Yeah. The Titans, and Rob McCombie will like this comparison because he's a Heat fan. I feel like the Titans are the Heat of basketball or Heat of football this year, because the Titans were able to maintain without their best players in, and that kind of gives you a feeling that when their best players are in, that they will be very, very, like, almost not impossible, but like very hard to beat.
Very hard to beat.
I just don't know. At a certain point, I mean, you're very well coached and your players are playing well. I don't know how much of it. I mean, obviously, Derrick Henry's a much better running back than the guys they have. And, like, Derrick Henry, I think, at his peak is the best running back ever. I think.
Ooh, wow.
That's my opinion.
Hot take.
Yeah, I think Derrick Henry just does everything. It's like they could throw screens to him, which, you know, I guess people's criticism would be that he doesn't, you know, catch as many passes as some of these other backs. But like,
I think that's an active decision by the Titans. Like, that's not a Henry can't do it.
Just run the whole. Why would you throw screens when you just run the other team over?
Yeah, because like like with screens, you need a good throw, you need a catch, right?
Yeah, exactly.
As opposed to a handoff, that's
it's
much
the same
more
thing with
finicky.
Marshawn Lynch. Like, why would they throw screens to him, even though he was really good on the pass? Good take, also very Bowman's probably comparable. I agree. They get the most out of their players.
Absolutely.
AJB gets AJ Brown's incredible. Definitely a guy. I'll be very upset about the Patriots not taking for a very long time.
For sure. I do want to fact check. Henry didn't play against the Steelers. His passing touchdown came against the Chiefs.
Okay. And they killed the Chiefs, I remember, like
27-3. And Henry only had 3 yards a carry.
That's nuts. Yeah. The Titans had a really good game against the Bengals or Bills this year, right?
Yeah, they were great offensively.
Monday night game?
Yeah, Monday night they won 34-31.
I remember I was at the Red Sox Astros game 3 of the ALCS when the Red Sox looked like they'd just taken it over, and then the rest of the series happened. But
hey, at least we beat the Astros.
At least you guys did it. I need to see someone beat the Astros after that.
Hammer on, baby, hammer on.
Yeah. So before we're done, there's I want to talk about a couple interesting trades.
Okay. I will defend this.
Titans have beaten the Rams. No, they're definitely not frauds. I just
like,
think
they're good. It's just
I just think the Bengals are very hot, which matters a lot in playoff time.
The Bengals beat the Chiefs. The Bengals beat the Ravens twice. The Ravens beat the Steelers twice. That's a playoff team. They probably should have beaten the Packers too.
Yeah, and the Ravens had Lamar Jackson the first time.
Yes, they did.
And they got I'm sorry, but they got absolutely killed that game.
I hate that Bengals fans are taking ownership. Like, haha, we made you change defensive coordinators. No. Like, sure, you went off on the Ravens defense. Congratulations. We also went off on your run defense last year for 404 yards. So, like, I get it, but at the same time, the Ravens might have made that move regardless. And there's some nuance there because the Ravens were without the most important player on the defense is Marcus Peters. I think Humphrey's better. I agree. I think Calais might be better. I think there are better players in the defense than Marcus Peters, but no player, I would argue no defensive player in the NFL changes what you do defensively more than Marcus Peters, because what Peters allows you to do is Peters is so valuable in that he can force turnovers. And sure, he's going to allow touchdowns. I get it. Sure, he's going to allow big plays. Sure, I get it. Yeah. But he ends drives. There's 5 drives a year that this is done, and sometimes he'll take it back for a touchdown. And he makes plays on the football. He can force fumbles too. He gets big pass deflections. So is he the best defensive player in the NFL? No. Is he the best cornerback on his own team? No. But he is so good. It's like Darius Leonard. He is so good at that one thing that it just changes what you do. And having the difference between having one good corner and 2 good corners it's night and day. I'm sure you can tell
that's
about
what you saw with Jackson. In the bigger games against these really tough teams,
like
when
Diggs.
he doesn't have Gilmore on the other side. It's a lot different than when you do have Gilmore on the other side. And I think that was a very big miscalculation by Belichick this year that really hurt.
Jackson's good, but is he Ramsey? No. Is he Jair? No. Is he AJ Terrell? No.
So my computer has 4%, so there's 2 more topics I did want to cover real quick. Yep. We have our full court trap segment where we talk about athlete or coach or whatever that the pressure's on right now. And I think that person right now is Frank Vogel. I think Frank Vogel, the Lakers.
Let me try a different background music.
with the Lakers struggling, with the Lakers struggling the way that they have, I think some major changes have to be made there. Whether it's obviously the trades have to happen, but in terms of rotations and just leadership, because the biggest thing that hurts Vogel, you can talk about the team struggling, you can talk about being poorly built. I agree with that. The issue for Vogel that's going to hurt him is they've blown so many big leads to teams that don't deserve to be in games with them, whether it's the Kings, whether it's the Thunder twice, where they're up by 20 both games. And they just had another – it was against the Pacers the other night when LeVert, who I wanted to talk about right after this, dropped 22 in the fourth quarter on them, and they lose, only scoring 24 points in the fourth quarter against the Pacers. Yep. That's something that's going to get you fired as a coach, not lack of adjustments, lack of really, trusting your players. I mean, Westbrook's, had his issues this year, but saying that the team's better off without him at the end of the game after the game's not a good way to go about as a coach, in my opinion. So I think the pressure is very much on him right now. And if he doesn't do anything quick, he's going to go from NBA champion to fired coach in a year and a half.
Yeah, I think that's definitely, if there's a scapegoat in Los Angeles, there always is with the LeBron team when they are, 82-0. And this year it's a lot of Westbrook and a lot of Frank Vogel. So I think the pressure's on Westbrook for sure. The pressure is on Frank Vogel a lot more because he threw Westbrook under the bus.
He did.
And this is, and it's one thing if you throw him under the bus and you have good reason to, which I think he does. But there's also, if it works, that's one thing. But with how the NBA works, if you're losing games and you throw someone else under the bus and you still continue to lose games, they're 22 or they're now 23-23. They beat the Magic today. Yeah, who even plays for the Magic? The Magic don't even have 10 wins. Come on now.
Yeah, I like Cole Anthony a lot. Cole Anthony's a baller.
Oh yeah, he's a dog. He's a dog.
And Mo Bamba's got a lot of potential. I like guys like Fultz. They have a couple other guys who I'm not thinking of off the top right now who are injured, who are really good players. But yeah, that team's a joke. I mean, the fact that they were in the game with them most of the game is a bad sign for.
That ouch. So the Bengals. the Lakers are the 8th seed in the West heading into today. They won today, so they will move up a little bit, but yeah, the pressure is absolutely on. We have applied the full court trap to Frank Vogel.
Yes, the rest of their schedule is very difficult. It's going to say a lot about them as a team. I'd be impressed if they even got this, like, the top end of the play-in tournament with the way they're playing right now. Because right now, according to Basketball Reference, which Basketball Reference has its flaws and its good things, they're projected to get 38 wins right now. That was going into today. I'm assuming a win over the Magic. Assuming a win over the Magic.
A little bit.
Yeah, I'm assuming it didn't do too much, but yeah. So that's going to be an interesting thing to look at the rest of the year. Now, guy that's really exciting me, and I think it should for both of us as Cavs fans, is the way Caris LeVert's
no more rock. We're going back to the night driving.
Yeah, the way that Caris LeVert's been playing recently, I really like his game. I think it fits well in Cleveland. A big guard, or not big, but 6'5" shooting guard who can score. He's been a good playmaker in the past, even though he has to put up like 16 shots a game in Indiana because that team's so dysfunctional. But I think he fits the Cavs perfectly with what they need. They need another scorer outside of Garland. Colin Sexton would be great, but unfortunately he has to be missing the rest of the year. So I think my dream trade as a Cavs fan, and I'm not sure if the Pacers will accept this, because the Pacers are either gonna do what their management's done the last few years and completely mess it up, or they're going to want a lot because they do still have him under contract for 2 more years on a favorable, I think, $17.5 million a year contract. They'll either give him up, like desperation type of trade, like the Hawks felt like they did with Reddish for no reason. And also I feel like that Reddish trade the Reddish trade also I feel like puts down LeVert's value a little bit because they're not too similar players, but I feel like Reddish and LeVert should have similar type of value. So my dream trade as a Cavs fan is Ricky Rubio's contract, which is just an expiring contract to get off the books to make the trade even, and so the Pacers have more cap space. Dylan Windler, who's a very good shooting, very good defensive, but injury prone small forward, who was a first-round pick a few years ago.
Yeah, he was the number 27. Was it 27? Maybe a little higher, 26. It's like early, like the mid-20s, because we got Porter at 30, and I probably should have broken out my Kevin Porter jersey for this. What do you do?
And then a protected first-round pick, or it doesn't even really need to be protected at this point because I highly doubt the Cavs are going to be a lottery team in the next 2 years, and then a second-round pick. If we can just trade Rubio, Windler, first round, second round, do it in a heartbeat. If they want Sexton or Okoro, I'm not doing it.
No.
But if they're willing to accept that trade, if I'm the Cavs, I'm doing it in a heartbeat. And they're saying the reason why it might not have happened yet, the trade, is because Ricky Rubio, the Cavs, want to get an injury exemption for him so that they can double down, trade his expiring contract, and trade the injury exemption for something. So it'll be interesting to see what they do the rest of the way. For sure.
All right, and one final question for you before we wrap up.
All right, 2% on the computer.
Okay, here we go. I'll make it quick. Speaking of twos, Dejounte Murray is the second player in Spurs history to have back-to-back triple-doubles. Name the other one.
Was it one of their big three?
No. It was not Duncan, Ginobili, or Parker.
So wait, did he play in the last 20 years?
Yeah. He won a title in the last 20 years.
I have no clue, honestly.
He is he's a Spurs legend, and it's weird to say that he's not a member of the Big Three because he is.
Kawhi. I'm sorry. Yeah, Kawhi.
Oh my lord. Other direction.
Wait.
So like the not 2015 title or 2014 title, the 03 title.
I'm trying to think of who was on that team. Oh, David Robinson. Yeah.
Yes, sir. David Robinson.
I was thinking, I wasn't sure if he was on there that late. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
He was on the 99 and 03 team. So it's like weird that he's not technically one of the big three for an 03 at least. In 99, he was the
he
Twin
was
Tower.
still there in 03. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, there you go. And that'll wrap us up. The first episode of the Full Court Trap. This was awesome, man.
Yes, this went as well as we could have hoped for. I really appreciate.
Other than my camera issues.
Yeah, I really appreciate all the questions you guys brought to us that really helped get conversation going. Really appreciate uSTADIUM doing this show for us. I always loved using that app. And
you'll have to make a take on it, and we can talk about it for next show. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if you don't have enough points, just hit me up. I can send you some. Get Frankie to send you some.
Yeah. So shout out uSTADIUM. Shout out everyone who joined the stream. Really appreciate you guys. And have a great night, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like the stream, subscribe to the channel, ring a ding ding, that Le'Veon Bell, that notification bell. Who's is it Jordan Bell, the member of who's on the Warriors?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, make sure you ring a ding ding, that Jordan Bell, not Le'Veon Bell. This is a basketball show, everybody. Thank you, Matt. We appreciate you.
Appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, ring a ding ding, that Jordan Bell. Thank you, Lexamon. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at uSTADIUM. You can follow Jake's accounts.
And that's another thing too. I do plan on creating a Twitter account for this show, so look forward to that.
Yeah,
and
awesome.
Thank you all you guys for the love. Appreciate it.
Also, always. We will update you. We will have a Twitter, Instagram, whatever, in the coming days, coming weeks, coming shows, and we're going to try to pin down a time, 9 o'clock on Fridays. I think it works for both of us.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for watching, and that was the Full Court Trap.